Hi, I'm Captain Mike, and in this video we're going to revisit how to repair a plaster mold. In this instance, I made this plaster mold from this mushroom, which I purchased at the Atlanta Fine Arts and Ceramics Show this year. I liked the mushroom, but I couldn't find, so I bought a case of them. But in the meantime, I tried to find the mold for this thing so I could make some more. I couldn't find this particular mold anywhere, so I decided to make one using normal procedure that I use to make plaster molds, in this case a two-piece mold, and I have a video on how I do that. And it went well. The first half of the mold unmolded just fine, and the mushroom came out of it. And so when I poured the second half and then separated the entire mold, I couldn't get this out very easily. And in the process of bumping it and tapping it, I broke the mold in half, as you can see here. I broke it completely in half, and I also broke off some little pieces on the inside. So I decided, rather than just start all over again, I'd try to repair it using a method different than I normally use and see how it affected the casting of slip when it was all said and done, if indeed I can repair the mold in the first place. Normally I use plaster. I rehydrate the originals, and then I add plaster in between and sketch it all together, and it works. That does work. But in this case, it would cause somewhat of a it builds up here, because the plaster you add in adds some dimension to the mold, and it just changes the whole thing. So this is a severe case, and I did not want to try that on this one. So I decided to use some superglue, also known as, see if I can pronounce this, cyanocrylate. Cyanocrylate, does that sound right? Okay, anyway, it's a superglue. Now I buy it by the pint because I use a lot of it, especially when I'm turning bowls and such on my lathe. For what I do, you couldn't buy them little tubes at the dollar store or at Walmart, whatever. It's just too inexpensive. So I use this. I use this from Starbond, and I'm not promoting that or anything. I just have always bought from them. I did from the very start. So they're one company that sells it, and there are other companies, and you can get it in all kinds of thicknesses. This is super fast, which is what we're going to use today, because it will actually just suck right into every little void. And the next one up is, of course, medium, and then medium fast, and then on and on. This video is not about that, but you can get on the Starbond site and find out everything you want to find out. Then go to Amazon and order what you want. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try to glue this together using super glue, and then we're going to add these pieces. And if it works, then we will try to pour slip in here and just see exactly what happens. So what I have here is my little container, my little nasty containers. This is we won't be using this probably, but this is the accelerant. And then I have some medium, but we probably won't use, at least not right off. But I'm going to use the super fast, and we're going to skeet some of it down in different holes. Now I know that where the super glue goes in, it will impede the absorption of the moisture from the slip. So we're going to apply this just as carefully as we can, so that it doesn't spread out too much of the plaster. I don't think, if it sticks, I don't think it's going to cause an issue. But we're going to do a little experimentation. So I'll probably speed this whole video up, because it's going to take a while as I kind of piddle with this, because I don't know where I'm going. This is an experiment. It may work, it may not work. We'll see. Here we go. it's messy. Of course, this was an extremely messed up mold. Normally I would have thrown this mold away and started all over again, but I saw the opportunity to do a video and maybe learn something myself. Now, I have fixed small messed up places on a mold with super glue. So I do know it will stick sometimes, but I don't know for sure. So I've had some problems right here on these two little pieces that I had to glue onto the surface that shipped out. Now, I didn't have to replace those. I could have just trimmed the excess slip that slid in there off. That would have been fine. But I wanted to go ahead and do everything I could do to this mold to see how it was going to affect the final casting. So I did that. I even poured some super glue inside the mold, which I know is going to inhibit the moisture absorption, but we're going to see what happens anyway. And also I did that to try to strengthen this. I'll put a little bit right here, probably overdoing it, but that's the way we're going to do it. If this works, then less invasive repairs will work. So we're going to let this set a while and make sure that everything is as it should be. Then we'll cast something in it and just see what we have. Alright, I've got it glued together. I took the clamps off and it hasn't fallen apart yet. So let's see if we can't get this thing in condition to make a casting. So looks like it fit pretty good there. So what I will do now is I will go ahead and off camera I will put my rubber bands around it. I'll pour a slip in it, and hopefully in a little while I can unmold this and we'll see what we have. It's going to be the real deal. It's when we try to unmold it and see what we have. So y'all just hang in there. I'll be back in a little while. All right, the slip is poured and sort of set up. I hope, I'm not trying to rush this video. Well, I am rushing this video because I want to make it all in one day. So maybe this will work, maybe it won't. It might be too mushy to unmold, but we're going to try it, because the main thing is to see how the mold holds up, and if it holds up through this, then the results coming out of it will be something that we can sort of fine tune. So let's see what we have here. Been a couple of hours that it's been sitting in this mold. The slip has been sitting in this mold, and it looks to me like there might be a crack started again right here. But if there is, I still have one more idea that I can use to possibly help the super glue, and I'll address that when we're through. The fact is, I see some slip that has eased out right here, so I would imagine this mold is going to come apart. So I'll get to tell you about what I'm going to do. So let's just kind of see what we've got here. Sometimes it's just a little bit problematic, and I'll probably have to get something to help me separate this mold. So be right back. Okay, I'm going to tap the seam with this little mallet and this little wedge here, and I'm about 99% sure that this break is going to reoccur. Now, before I do that, even with this mold broke like this, I could use it, because I could just put lots of rubber bands down it and it would do what I want it to do. But molding something is not what this is about. It's fixing this mold is what this is about. So let's go ahead and get on with this, and whatever happens will happen, and then I will try the second idea that I have. Aha! Yep, like I thought, it did come apart. Okay, so I'm going to have to go to plan B on that. Super glue still may work, but I may have to do something else. But now, this is awfully gummy here. I'll probably tear it up trying to get it out. So I will let it sit for a while like this and dry out, and as it dries, the slip will shrink and then it will pop out. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I'll do it all off camera, and I'll glue this thing back together. First, I'll have to clean all this mess up. Then I am going to put concrete sealer, something I use on plaster all the time, and I'm going to put both ends of this, I'm going to coat it with concrete sealer after I've cleaned it up a little bit. That way it will make this less porous, and hopefully the super glue will stick. And this time I will put the super glue on this part and on this part. Then I'll skeech it together and clamp it, and I will use my medium, okay, which is a little bit more viscous and it won't run quite as much. But what I'm trying to do, the first time I wanted the super glue to run, and you can see kind of where it run down in there. It just colored the plaster a little. In fact, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and put super thin on that and let it dry, and then put it together and see if it skeeched together close enough that it would work. So it's going to take a little time to do this, and so it may be tomorrow before I get to it. So let's just pause the video for now and get on with this idea. Okay, I'm prepared to try to re-glue this, and I'm going to do it in a different way than I did the first time. I am going to use super glue, and I will coat all of this. Now I washed this off really good. It had some clay seepage in it, so I cleaned it all off, and I dried this, completely. So I'm going to put a coat of thick super glue here and a coat of thick super glue here, and I'm probably going to try to put it on in such a manner that whenever I put this together and clamp it, it won't seep into the inside. I don't know. We'll have to see. This is an experiment, and as a lot of my experiments go, sometimes they don't go too well. But hey, that's the only way you can learn. I try to do this so you don't have to, or at least you have an idea of where you're going when you try it. Now, in addition to the super glue, I'm going to try another kind of glue. I'm going to try some just regular old woodworking glue. I got a funny feeling that this stuff will work. I will glue these two pieces of plaster together, and I'll just clamp them like that. And then when I come back and all this is dry, then we'll see how well it holds. I'm going to let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow morning we'll take it apart and we'll see. I was hoping this video would be a little shorter than it is, and I was hoping I could do it all in one day, but it just hasn't worked out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on this, and I have some medium here, which is more Star-Bought. I buy it in these pints because you just really need to buy it in pints if you're going to use it. But I'm going to use this medium thick right here, and my thinking is that it won't soak in quite as much, but yet it will give a chemical bond. So let's give it a shot and see what we've got, okay? Okay, we've got it all glued together, and it looks pretty good. I did get a little bit of seepage on the inside of this one. You know, when I say seepage, it's along the crack line. I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference, but we will see. Now, this is the first molding that I got, okay? and I've already cut this off. This where you pour the clay in. And then I have a lot of flash, as you can see. Now this is expected on these homemade molds. They just, for some reason, they lose a lot of plaster along the edges when you unmold them. Could be the type of plaster that I use. Could be a lot of things. But as long as it's pieces missing like that, it leaves a lot of flash, and all you have to do is trim it off. So looking at this molding, that's acceptable to me. I can smooth it all out with a wet sponge and an X-Acto knife and clean it up, and it will work. So in this experiment, we're repairing this mold, and I'm liking it well enough that if this doesn't work, I'll just make another mold for this. But I've got a feeling this will work. If I have time, I will pour this one again, okay, and then we'll see how it does with all this glue, and we'll also check out and see how this plaster is going to do. So until this thing sets up, I'll see you when it dries. Well, I think we've done about all we can do with this mold here, so let's see if any of these glue techniques worked. We'll start off first with this little side experiment using wood glue. Any kind of wood glue will work, I would imagine. And at first glance it looked like it worked. That's glued tight. It's not coming loose. I would say that this is an option, and probably in the long run it might be the best option, because the glue doesn't run as much and it doesn't soak in as much as the super glue does. So yeah, I'd definitely try plaster. That wasn't even where I was going with this video, but hey, we'll take what we can get. So that's that. But now, what we came here to see was this busted mold and super glue. Now I have to admit, I kind of screwed up. I used too much of the thick, and when I sat the mold to let it dry like a dummy, I oriented it like this, and the super glue run out and it ran down in here, and for all practical purposes it will not absorb as well here. But this is not about how well this mold will work. It's all about, did I glue it together? Will it stay together? Because I know when you do this, you experiment with it, you're going to be a little bit more careful than I am, and you won't have glue running everywhere. Me, I just slop things around and I take what I can get. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try just gently to pull it apart. Obviously, I can break it if I slam it, but I'm not going to do that. We just want the integrity of the glue to hold the mold together, and it looks like it has. So, if you wanted to use super glue to mend a mold, make sure it's dry. I would add a little bit of this concrete sealer, which is what I put on it. Let's see, here it is. I use this, and I put a couple of coats of concrete sealer on the surfaces that I was going to glue together. Let it dry really good, and after it's dry, apply your super glue and clamp it, and be very careful to use just as little amount of super glue as you can, so that it won't run into your mold, because you don't want it to run in there. It will affect it. I'm going to test this mold. We won't do it for this video, but I'm going to test this mold to see what I get, and I'll probably make a new mold later on. But if we can salvage this one and get a few casts out of it, that'll be great. If not, then this is a learning experience. Now I went ahead and cleaned this up, and it did a pretty good cleanup job on this, so I expect it to make a nice little mushroom. Maybe not as pretty as this one, but hey, again, we'll take what we can get. So that's it, folks. Super glue will glue plaster together, and so will wood glue. So if you have a mold that you busted, and you know, you have a couple of big parts, and you want to try to salvage it, this is an option. If you have better options, let me know what they are. But using plaster on plaster in some cases works, and wood glue works, super glue works. So experiment with those. Let me know what you come up with and how it works for you. So that's my video on trying to repair a broken mold. And I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.